chart. This is Doge USDT. And we can see here that this was the pump we had at the beginning of this year around March. And then we did basically 100% retracement of that as we came back to rebalance this entire area. And we're looking like the market structure might be changing now. But before any of this matters, there's two things that you should look at first before you consider buying any altcoin. And that is the dominances. So some dominances that you need to take note of is Bitcoin dominance, the USDT dominance, which is my middle chart. And then finally, the others dominance, which takes into account the total market cap, excluding the top 10 cryptocurrencies. Now, the reason you look at this first is because it basically tells you the interests of investors. Whichever one of these charts is bullish is where people are putting their money. And you want to know that because that's how you're going to maximize your gain. So if we take a look at Bitcoin dominance, for example, we can see that it's been on an uptrend for quite some time. And on the daily chart, it has held the 200 EMA really, really well. And currently, it's still even above the 50 EMA and it's creating higher highs and higher lows. Now, a lot of people are expecting that Bitcoin dominance will continue to rise into around the 60% area and we won't really get a rejection until that level. Now, because the Bitcoin dominance is continuing to rise and we're heading towards that 60%, what we're seeing with the altcoins that were bullish over the last couple of weeks was essentially early investors trying to front run this. Now, that's fine if you have a lot of capital and you can afford to continue offloading your capital if the dominance continues to rise. However, if you are short of funds, you really should be waiting for this rejection wherever it ends up coming before you start to offload capital, because the longer that Bitcoin dominance stays bullish, it's telling you your money is better off in Bitcoin. Once you start to see a little bit of a rejection, that doesn't automatically mean that your money should go into altcoins because everybody else is. It could actually be going into stable coins. If there is some really bad economic news that is going to cause people to be risk off, they might sell out of Bitcoin, which will lower the dominance, but they might actually sell into USDT, meaning your altcoins aren't going to fly then either. So the next chart that you need to analyze is the USDT dominance. And so far, so good. On the daily time frame, we had this triangle, we broke to the downside. This looks like a bit of a retracement and we may continue down from there as well, as this trend line looks to be on the verge of breaking now. So if it does actually continue to break down, then no worries, people are not shifting into stables just yet. And that means that the dominance charts you need to pay attention to is Bitcoin dominance and finally the others. Now the others chart is really interesting to me and something I'm keeping an eye on right now, because we can see here that we've been in a downtrend since March of this year, and now it looks like the market structure on this is attempting a change. If we zoom into this area, you'll see that what we've got going on here is a bit of a W formation. We've gone through our rise and we're right now in a bit of a flag, which is the retracement. And if this flag holds, especially if it holds above the 61.8, we may see the next move out to the upside. And if you see that, that is when you're going to go to step 2 of your charting process for altcoins. It doesn't mean automatic buy, it just means the first box is ticked. So keep an eye on this one especially. It's not great that we've created a lower high within the flag. I would have liked to see this move up for another touch to the top, then create a higher low. That would have given me more confidence that the altcoins are going to break out to the upside. We don't have it yet. So you have to know that whilst there's a lower high right there, this flag could fail and we could break down further. And if that happens, that's probably going to lead to another altcoin capitulation. But don't worry, because I'm going to show you how to prepare for that. Now, once you've analyzed those 3 charts, the next step is to go to the actual Bitcoin pairing of the thing that you want to buy. Now, you're not going to be buying it with your Bitcoin. You'll probably end up buying it with USDT. But the reason you want to chart it against Bitcoin, especially if you have limited cash, is because you want to make sure that anything else you're buying in this market is outperforming Bitcoin. Because if it's not, whilst this part of it might look bullish against USDT and you might make some profit, you are not actually outperforming Bitcoin if the Bitcoin pair chart is bearish, and therefore you have an opportunity loss. So if you have limited capital and you are wanting to make money in this cycle, you've got to be very smart about where you put that capital. And you need to not just be looking for things that are good, fundamentally good, chart-wise look good. You need to be looking for things that are outperforming the best asset right now, which is Bitcoin. And why is it the best? Because the dominance is showing us that that's where the interest is. So we're not going to look at Doge USDT first. We're going to look at Doge BTC. Now, when we have a look at this, same thing. We can see this pump through March. We see 100% retracement of that. We've seen a move up to the 200 EMA, almost again another 100% retracement of that. And this time on the second attempt, we have broken the 200 EMA. There are some really good targets above price for Doge because there is a lot of levels of resistance that it can go to. And what we're starting to see is a little bit of a market structure change. Now, when you see that, you still have to set your conditions and you want to make sure that you're buying this thing at the cheapest price possible that still maintains that confirmed trend change. Don't ever think if you can't get it any cheaper, you should just buy or you're going to miss out. Remember, there are 2 million altcoins right now. And if something takes off before you are fully positioned in it, you will have other choices. Don't chase things, when they're up here in their high pump, thinking you're too late and you better just get in. Just look for the next opportunity. And I'm going to show you a good example of that a little bit later. So when we have a look at the current price action for Doge, there's a few things we can do to build up an idea of where to buy. Take Fibonacci from the most recent low to the most recent high. And we want to line the fib levels up with something else that adds confluence. Immediately at the 50 fib level, I can see the 200 EMA, and I can also see a green vector right here. In addition to that, if we were to come back to the 50 EMA, we would also come back here to the prior resistance. So that would be a really good area for price to break through, create the higher high, come back for a retracement, and now flip this prior resistance into support. And if it held around that area, never think of it as just a whole number, just think of it as a whole area, then that would be a good area to buy. So it's never an automatic buy if price comes back into a zone. What you're waiting for next is to make sure the bullish candlesticks start to form in that zone. And if they do, then you can take action. If the price remains bearish in that zone, then you're simply just moving down to the next vector that you can see on the initial push up. So our first area of interest is going to be around this vector candle here. So now when I look at this and I can see that the market structure is changing, I can draw the conclusion that Doge is making an attempt to become bullish against Bitcoin, and therefore I can start planning where to buy. So now I'm going to have a look at the USDT chart and see if I can find an area like this that matches up as a good buy zone. And I'm also going to use the liquidity from high block. When I have a look at the Doge USDT chart, again, you can see we created this high here, a higher low and a higher high. So the charts look very similar, but I've got a lot more vector candles here that I can use as areas to buy. And I'm going to use the liquidity heat maps to help me decide which one of these vector candles should actually become my target. Now, when I have a look at this heat map here, I've run it on the 3-month look back period, and you can immediately see that the brightest yellow area is way down here, which is going to be a return to the support and will break that structure if that were to happen. So how do I analyze that? What does that mean for me? That means that I should still be prepared for an altcoin capitulation, which I am. I'm not fully positioned in altcoins because whilst Bitcoin is bullish and having this little bit of a pullback, with the dominance rising as Bitcoin is bullish, there is a very big chance that there is still an altcoin capitulation to come. And what this tells me is pick your area where you think the higher low might come, which will give you confirmation that your altcoin is bullish. Reassess when it gets there. But if you don't get your final confirmation, if you don't get those candlesticks in that zone becoming bullish and showing you that the buyers are stepping in, be prepared for lower prices. So I have to build 2 plans for that. So where would my higher low come in? I can see some kind of green areas here that sit around the 0.13 mark. And now I'm going to check where that lines up on my Doge chart. And 0.13 is around here. So again, it's going to be a retest of this prior resistance, similar to the Bitcoin chart. And this blue vector is the one that is in that zone. So this becomes my area of interest. And again, by the time price actually does retrace into there, the 200 EMA, which is my yellow EMA, that's going to come in like this. So if price price were to trickle down like this, hold the 200 EMA, give me a bullish candlestick formation, that's going to end up being a high low off the 200 EMA, and that will be bullish. And if I don't get that, if I continue to get weakness in this area of interest, sorry, my lights have just decided to have a disco there, then I'm going to prepare for that altcoin capitulation. And that would mean that the 0.09 to the 0.1 would become my next target to look to make a move. And that is essentially my whole process when I'm looking to invest in altcoins for the long term. So now I'm going to smash through the final 5 using that exact same method. And I'm going to show you how once you're used to it, you can get through really quite fast. And the next one I'm going to cover is Solana. And I want to cover Solana because I know it has a lot of attention. It has really good marketing. Everybody wants to be part of Solana, but it's had such a huge move lately that, again, if you have limited capital and you need to be really careful about where you put that capital, is a coin that's already done such a huge multiple really the right choice for you? Or should you be looking for Solana killers or just something else that hasn't had such a big move yet? Now, sure, Solana's probably got a hell of a lot more upside left in it, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that it's already done so much. There's been so many times in this cycle that Solana has just done a solo run, whilst other altcoins aren't really doing much. Solana's done something like $154 to $165 in just a few days. And it seems to just be having these big surges every now and then, even if the rest of the market isn't doing too much. And one of the reasons that could have happened lately is because Solana's just activated transfers for its EU customers. And that means if you are in the EU and you're using Robinhood, you can now actually transfer Solana to earn a 1% bonus on your deposits. And I think you can do that until the end of November. And another reason could be that recently Van Eck, which is a major asset manager, they have enabled staking for Solana. So that means that investors can now lock up their Solana tokens and earn rewards, and that just gets reinvested automatically. And so things like that just bring out a lot of optimism for Solana, and that, continues to push it into the spotlight. And so you've got institutional funds pouring in, you've got all of these predictions that it's going to break $200 soon, and all of that stuff just brings in this upward momentum, which keeps Solana looking quite strong. But again, if you have limited capital, even though Solana might be a good investment, is it the right investment for you considering what it's already done so far? So let's go through the process with Solana. Looking at the Solana BTC chart all the way back to December 2023, we've essentially just been in a very wide range. It's pretty clear to see where the liquidity is that they don't really want to push price below, because we have this final vector here after this consolidation that made this move to the upside, and we have returned there once prior, and we haven't returned there since. It's holding around the 200 EMA, but the 200 EMA is now basically flat and sideways because we've been consolidating for so long. But whilst holding that is bullish, we do also have these major pivots here where the second pivot at this point in time is a lower high, and there's potential for this one to become a third lower high. So there really is no major macro direction for Solana right now. And what we're looking for is the trend to actually change within this zone to give us a hint that it's going to break out of this high and then continue to the upside. Again, this is Sol BTC. So if it can do that, that's when it's telling you that Sol is outperforming Bitcoin and it's a worthwhile investment. When we zoom in on this current area, we can see that this here is starting to create a higher high in relation to this previous high right here. Good start. It's broken above the EMAs, but like I said, the EMAs are sideways. So if this is going to sustain itself and continue up, we actually want to see these EMAs start to move up and to the right. We want to see that happen because that shows us a trend is forming. Otherwise, we're doing nothing but a wide range consolidation. So there's a couple of things that would need to happen with Sol BTC. If this run here wants to keep going, let it go however long it takes. At some point, there will be a pullback, and we were waiting to make sure that that pullback now creates the higher low. And when it does, we want to make sure our EMAs are trending up as well. If you really wanted to buy Solana in this range at the prices that it's at, that's going to be your best bet right there, as you would expect that as long as it met all of those conditions, the next move will be an attempt at least back to the top of the range, potentially this resistance first and then to the top of the range. So that now allows you to go and set the level to buy on the USDT chart. And again, you can see they almost mirror each other. You've got the USDT charts vector here that has been returned to a couple of times. So that's showing you that that is where the liquidity is. You've got this spike into it right here and then another one right here. As long as they stay away from this zone and they don't break down below it, this could act as a good support. If we happen to have a big liquidation hunt, there's way too much leverage in the market and we get one of those flush outs. If we get that and it returns back into this zone, that's going to be your best area to buy, providing